our philosophy remains the same, that until we help that one child and really, find out what they need and how we can meet that need, we're not going to move on to the next one. And I think that this is so unique in the nonprofit world. Everybody wants to help that huge $1 million organization. We will remain this humble organization. We don't invest in marketing teams. I'm sitting in my closet in my childhood bedroom. This is where, all of our documents and, forms and everything is kept here. I don't take a salary. Nobody takes a salary. We're run by volunteers. Our board of directors is an amazing, compassionate. They all have that same calling and purpose to be here, to make a difference in at least one child's life. And I think that is what is carrying us forward. And of course, we need the recognition, we need the support, we need, the news blurbs and all of that. But at the end of the day, what's most important is that we hold on to our values.
Welcome to the Warriors at Work show. This is Jeannie Coomber, your guide and host. This is a show for men and women in the workplace who want to move from the predictable to the potent. This is your weekly dose of inspiration with an edge. I talk with CEOs and shamans, sports marketing executives and therapists. All of us are like-minded thinkers and doers who tell stories, share wisdom, and challenge each other to have the best life possible inside and outside the office. Welcome to your Warrior Conversation.
Hey everybody, it's Jeannie. Thank you so much for joining me here at Warriors at Work. I am honored to bring to you a conversation that you are going to see periodically throughout the entire month. I had the opportunity to speak with the founder and president of One Life to Love, Courtney Lalotra, who joins me to share the story of her incredible journey to India as a 23-year-old graduate student of FIT, who literally changed her entire life path after she saw the crisis in India of homelessness for children, especially those who have special needs. The trip was supposed to last 1 month. That was 14 years ago. She moved to New Delhi, India, volunteered in an orphanage, and began her work of helping one child at a time. And so this is a crisis that is beyond comprehension. There's more than 18 million children who live on the streets in India. One Life to Love provides shelter, education, and nutrition to abandoned and underprivileged children. This is a story of hope, generosity, and courage. The world needs more Courtneys. And so let's bring her message to the world and help her save more children through the incredible work of One Life to Love.
Courtney, thank you so much for joining me here at Warriors at Work for what I'll characterize as a really, really special conversation with a really special person. So I'm very, very grateful that you took the time to be here today.
Thank you, Jeannie. It's my pleasure. I'm so happy to know you, and I'm so happy to sit down with you and have this conversation.
So I want to start at the beginning because, you as a human being are very, very special. And the work that you're doing in the world is so extraordinary. And so I want to start at the beginning, which in 2010, you decided to take a very big trip to India to study textiles for 30 days. And that trip changed your life. So tell us the story.
Yes, well, in short, it was supposed to be a 30-day trip, and here we are 15 years later, and I've never left India. I'm still here. So I graduated FIT in New York. I wanted to be a jewelry designer. I wanted to work for luxury brands, and I was working for several luxury brands, and traveling across the US and doing merchandising and training and sales and all of that. So, my goal was always this kind of glamorous, like fashion focused career. But I was invited with a research team from my university to go to India and study a type of wool that is manufactured only there. It's called pashmina, which we call Kashmir. Is very luxurious cloth and all of that. And I thought, what am I going to do there? But I was kind of pressured, like, you got to come. It's going to be an amazing experience. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll go. I flew to India. I met the group there. And as soon as I walked out of the airport, I saw children begging on the streets. They were coming up to me, these little 3, 4-year olds, barely any clothes, tattered clothes on their bodies, and they were begging for food and money. And it was so shocking to me. I had done an internship in Uganda, um, which was like a rural setting. We lived in a mud hut for 2 months, and I saw poverty there,
Mm.
but it was so different, talking about urban poverty, seeing children begging on the streets. It was so shocking for me. And even though we were going through India and seeing these amazing, beautiful places, and the culture is so incredible, that image and that experience of those children just stuck with me throughout the trip. So when it was time to come back to the US, I thought, okay, let me stay and volunteer for a little bit and, do something. Maybe I can help, or maybe I'll just feel better about myself.
Mm.
And then, yeah, once I started volunteering, I was volunteering in an orphanage in the middle of one of the biggest slums in Delhi. And I just felt like it was the saddest, loneliest place on earth. And here are these 50 girls. It was a girls' orphanage, 50 girls who just had no one. They had shelter, they had food, they had education, but they had no one who really cared about them.
Mm.
And so my time there, I spent just caring for them, asking them, you know, about themselves, what they want to be, what are their dreams, what is their story, what are their struggles. And I found out that I was the only one asking those questions. And so when it came time to leave, I was like, really felt like, what, I'm going to come back. And one little girl said to me, no, you won't come back. Nobody comes back here. And it's okay. She was like, it's fine. Everybody says they'll come back, but nobody comes back.
Mm.
And I just felt like here are these kids, they're abandoned throughout their life, not just once. They didn't just get abandoned and end up in an orphanage. It's a daily feeling of abandonment and loneliness. And I felt that my life, what better use of my life can there be than to invest in a child who has no one, to just love a child and give them that support system that no one else is offering. And I knew that I had a choice to make at that point, that I could go back to US, I can continue in my career. And we all love to say, when I'm rich one day, I'm going to help
Mhm.
do something and I'm going to make a difference. Or I can make that difference right now. You don't need $1 million to make a difference. You just need a heart to care, a heart to love, and a heart to give.
Wow, and so when you decided to go back, tell us, like, what was the conversation like with your family?
Yes, well, so I made the decision while I was still in India, and I knew it was probably better that I called my parents on the phone and told them that, I'm coming, but it's only for a little bit. I'm gonna head right back to India once I'm there. So I called my mom and I was like, I explained it to her that this there is nothing better that I can do with my life than to invest my love, my talents, everything to make a life better. And that there are these children that have no one, they're being abandoned, they're helpless, and I have to do something about it. And I won't be
Mm.
able to sleep at night unless I know that I'm doing something about it. So my mom and, with my dad's, of course, his support as well, she flew out to India. She was like, I have to see it. I can't say
Mm.
yes. I have to see it firsthand. So she came and she visited me. And, that from her experience, she knew as soon as she stepped foot in that orphanage, she was overwhelmed with like sadness. It was, like I
Mm.
said, the loneliest, saddest place on earth. And she says that she saw me there as like a light of hope for these children. And she knew that I was exactly where I was meant to be. So when I
Wow.
went home, she told my dad and that we can't tell her no. Like we would be stopping something beautiful from happening if we were to hold her back. So they supported me, Jeannie. My parents, like people tell me, like you just said, I'm a special person and whatever. People tell me I'm brave, and But I really give a lot of credit, most of the credit, to my parents, because as a human being, it's very easy for us to make decisions and go. But as a parent, it's very
Mm.
difficult to allow our children to make decisions that maybe put their safety at risk.
Yeah, you make such a really powerful point about, it's one thing to have your son or daughter move to another city in the US to start a job. What you did is move across the world to do something that no one else was doing in
Yes.
a foreign country, dealing with incredibly difficult circumstances and situations, which we're going to get into, because I think that's a really, really important part to your story, is not only where you are today, but what you had to do to get to this place. Um, and so what I want to talk about is, in looking at this, there's 18 million children on the street in India. And One Life to Love's mission is to protect, educate, and empower every child. And so what I'd love to hear first is the early days. Like, what were some of the critical moves? So you were at this orphanage for girls. There were 50 girls there. Was that like the very, very beginning, and was that the foundation? Okay.
Yeah, so I was willing, to be a volunteer my whole life and just love on these kids however I could and use my skills and my education however I could to benefit them. Um, and then what I saw is that there were children being rescued from the streets every day. They're just being pulled off the streets. They've been abandoned, um, whatever. They're part of human traffic, like they've been abducted into human trafficking rings, begging rings. So they're being rescued every day and brought into these shelter homes, or orphanages, which we call them. But the fact is that a majority of these children have some sort of special need. They have some sort of physical or mental challenge. And that's, for various reasons. A lot of times, children with special needs are abandoned by their families or they're sold, to human trafficking, because there is such a shame culture attached to that still today.
Mm.
And then there are other factors like they might have not had any special needs, but the fact that they've been abandoned to the streets and the life on the streets have just traumatized them so much that they've developed these kind of challenges. So I was seeing there's so many children with special needs. There's no facility for a child with special needs. And what happened was there was one boy, his name is Sundar, which means beautiful. So we call him a beautiful boy. So he was rescued from the streets about maybe 12, 13 years old in the middle of winter. He had no clothing on. He showed signs of being physically and sexually abused. He was left to die on the roadside, and he was rescued in the middle of the night and brought to the shelter home where I was volunteering. And the children just embraced him, and even the people who were volunteering there, we helped him to like rehabilitate, and of course healthcare, all of that. um but he was nonverbal completely, and with the amount of love and care and attention that we were showing him, he was able to tell us his name, Sundar, which is beautiful. And we saw him, he started playing soccer, he started, enjoying his life. And then what happens is the owners of that home, they don't want to invest in taking care of a child like this. He was epileptic, he needed special medication, he needed a special nurse on him, he couldn't do anything on his own, use the washroom,
Mm.
etc. And they aren't willing to invest the money that it takes to provide those facilities for a special child. So they sent him out to the only home in India, in Delhi, India, for special needs children, which is just overrun. They have capacity for 400. There's over 1,000 children in that home,
Mm.
and children die every day there without a name, without an identity. And this most traumatic, like saddest thing that happened is that he went there, and a few months later, I was trying anything. I was calling all over India. Is there any space available for this child in your home? There was nothing available. And a few months later, he ended up passing away there.
Mm.
And I remember going home and just crying. home meaning the orphanage. I went back to the orphanage after I heard this, and I just laid down on the floor and I was crying and I was so angry. And I remember, like, you have these moments of like, why God,
Mhm.
why this? And I felt like that question was being asked directly back to me, like, yeah, why? Why is this happening? Why don't you do something about it?
Mm.
So from that moment, I decided that I will open a home for children like Sundar. And
Mm.
my goal was that his suffering should not go in vain. If even we can help just one child, rescue them from that same fate, then, it's all worth it. So that was always my goal. Then I opened a home. I put a house on rent. I found a nice two-story house, like 4 bedrooms. I put it on rent. I had some of my friends come and help me volunteer. We got all the furniture and everything. And then the goal was, okay, let's just rescue one child today. Let's go out and see if there's one child who needs a safe home. And that's how it started. And now, fast forward today, we've helped rehabilitate over 400 children.
Mm.
We are caring for hundreds of children every day. We're rescuing thousands of children from child marriage, child labor, human trafficking. It's just, and our focus is still always like one child at a time. Let's give that the child before us, let's give them the best care and attention and everything that they need.
Mm. Wow. So walk us through like an average day for you.
Yes, average day. So when we first started, we used to go out to the slums. So I would go into the slums or the streets and I would do what we call awareness campaign. So I'll say, this is a special needs child. These are factors, like identifying factors of someone with special needs. And then this is how we should respond to that. And this is the feeling and, the kind of thought process that we should have when we're dealing with people who are different from us, to kind of just break that shame. Nobody's talking about it. Let's talk about it.
Mm.
And then from that, people would come to me and say, oh, I know of a child who is being locked in a cabinet. I know of another one who's being chained up all day. They're starving that one. They're abusing that one. So then we would go with the community's help to those homes, those slum areas, shanty areas. And then we would, counsel the parents, and we would just, if needed, work with the police as well. And then we would convince them that, this is how your child is not cursed. This is not something to be ashamed of. um, they're beautiful, they're able, and most of the time the parents would give up the child to us, and then we work with them. So, morning to night, we have therapies, we have IEPs, which are individualized education plans for each child. um, and then, what happened, so everything is organic. What we do, we just want to help whoever is in need right in front of us. So
Mm.
there we are, starting with our children's home or orphanage for special needs children. But then there's still children who are maybe not special needs, but they're left on the streets all day. They're mostly migrant children. So their families migrate to the cities for work. And the children are just left, they're homeless. They're left on the streets all day. Oftentimes, the older siblings have to take care of the younger siblings. So there was actually a young girl, Ruchi. She her parents were constructing a building next to our orphanage, and Ruchi used to roam around with her little 1-year-old brother, her 6-year-old brother, and her 4-year-old sister. And she was just 10 years old.
Mm.
And I used to see her that she had no clothes, and she's just caring for these kids in the heat all day outside. So I told her, Ruchi, why don't you come to our orphanage and you'll get some good food, you'll get clothing, and you just stay there for the day and the kids will get taken care of, and then you can study with us too. So
Mm.
Ruchi came that day, next morning, and then the day after that, Ruchi brought a friend who's also like her. Day after that, she brought another friend, and then that friend brought a friend. And fast forward today, we have over 125 children coming every day to our
Wow.
orphanage.
Wow. You also, when we were preparing for this interview, you were telling me about some incredible challenges that you had to overcome along the journey, more in the earlier days. And a lot of people did not want you to succeed. And that really would have stopped a lot of people I know from doing anything further, but that just wasn't the case for you. And so as you reflect on the journey, what I would love for you to share is like what's been most difficult for you and how did you move through the difficulty? And if you want to give any context or color around what were some of the bigger challenges.
Sure. I think the biggest challenge was finding people to come alongside me in this work because it's not for the faint-hearted.
Mm,
You need to have a heart. You need to have the love and the passion to do this work. So it was very hard to find people who had that, who really cared for the children as their own. And there were some who came and they just saw, an opportunity to make money. There was one instance where we had a group of volunteers who all conspired to steal everything in the orphanage. They stole everything. They stole the washing machine, they stole the stove, they stole the TV, they stole the rice and the rations that we had. They stole everything in the middle of the night and they left my kids there.
mm,
And I mean, this was a like terrible situation. I got physically sick over it because it's so, it's such a betrayal on so many
mm,
levels. And it just questions, it makes you question everything. Like, who can you trust? Um, and it was very hard to bounce back from that to then again let the wall down a little bit and see, who we can let in, who we can trust with our kids. And then of course, to put all of those safety nets in place. Now we are connected with the police, we're connected with the government. There's so many safety nets all around us that we ensure that these things can't happen again. So yeah, like learning the hard way with that. And then that is the biggest struggle, finding people who really love the
mm,
kids. And we have gotten to that. So we call them our house mothers. These are women who are widows. They're uh, maybe survived domestic violence. They're ostracized from their communities for whatever reason. And they also find refuge, hope, and a home with us. And at the same time, they learn to embrace the children as their own. That's why we call them house mothers. They are like the mothers to the children. And they're with them 24/7. And somehow, again, it's all like God's timing, God's planning. We were able to get some good women with us. And now we have such a wide network of women who just want to come and work for us, and, love on these kids and take care of them. Then, of course, like the challenge, it's always like there's this saying. So like, I am a blue person. I'm like from a blue country, and then I go into a yellow country. So like India is my yellow country now, but I'm blue. I was born and raised blue.
mhm,
Now I'm in the yellow country and I don't really connect so much with the blue. But I connect a lot with the yellow, but I'm not actually yellow. So now I'm
mm,
green. I've just kind of mixed the two, and I feel like I'm green. So it's like I miss home. I miss New Jersey. I miss my family, and I miss America. I miss my roots and all. But when I'm here, it doesn't feel like home. When I'm in India, that is home. And I
mm.
guess, it's like you become something else.
Right. It's almost like that's where your spirit is in
Yes,
India, your life's work, what you're supposed to do while you're on this planet.
yes,
You have found your path. One of the stories that I'd love for you to talk about is because obviously you were doing this work through COVID
yes,
and India was dramatically impacted by COVID. So I'd love for you to give us some context there.
yes. So when the COVID pandemic happened, we are in a city, Delhi, where it's like millions and millions of migrants come from all over India, even different countries, Bangladesh and Nepal. They come from all over into these cities like Delhi because there's such a boom in construction. So there's a lot of unskilled laborers. These are migrants, they're undocumented. They don't really exist here technically, but there's millions of them and they're homeless and they live, hand to mouth. So they work and then that's what puts food on the table for them. So what happened when the pandemic happened, everything shut down, and these people, they have no home, they have no daily income. So that means they're starving. They have no food.
Mm.
So the people from the community, we had made such a reputation for ourselves that we care and we give and we help anyone who's in need. And a lot of these migrant families, their children were coming to our daycare center at that time. So one day we just had hundreds of people lining up outside our door asking for food. They had nothing to eat. Their whole
Mm.
family, small children starving. So we started just giving out rations, dry rations, and enabling them to cook at home. So we would give we call them ration packs, and it was enough food supplies for a family to eat for a week. And it became such a huge outreach that the police and everybody came alongside us to help us distribute. We ended up distributing over 6,000 tons of rations, helping tens of thousands of families throughout
Wow.
the pandemic. And it was such a bad situation for these families that actually many of them started walking back to their villages. You're talking tens of thousands of miles walking on foot with their children on their backs, whatever they own in a, bag dragging behind them. They were so desperate for help.
Wow. Wow. That's an incredible story. And I'm sure that also helped facilitate, because now you're known nationally in India. And I mean, that is such an incredible story that it probably opened up a lot of positive relationships with the government, with the police. So
Absolutely.
so talk to us about, like, how you have expanded this work to get onto a national stage. You started with such humble beginnings, such humble roots, it was an intention, a positive intention, that you've now created this national presence.
Yes, well, it goes back to the same philosophy that we hold on to, one child at a time. We aren't, though we statistically we are helping tens of thousands through education, through relief work, through, you know, healthcare, all of that. We have all those statistics, but our philosophy remains the same, that until we help that one child and really, find out what they need and how we can meet that need, we're not going to move on to the next one. And I think that this is
Mm.
so unique in the nonprofit world. Everybody wants to help that huge $1 million organization. We will remain this humble organization. We don't invest in marketing teams. I'm sitting in my closet in my childhood bedroom. This is where, all of our documents and, forms and everything is kept here. Uh, I don't take a salary. Nobody takes a salary. We're run by volunteers. Our board of directors is an amazing, compassionate, they all have that same calling and purpose to be here, to make a difference in at least one
Mhm.
child's life. And I think that that is what is carrying us forward. And of course, we need the recognition, we need the support, we need, the news blurbs and all of that. But at the end of the day, what's most important is that we hold on to our values.
Mm. That was one of the things that I really loved. The uniqueness is the organization's run by volunteers. You have an open door policy, because again, it's one child at a time. And One Life to Love is the only home in New Delhi that caters to children on the street. And I thought that was another really, really important distinction. So tell us about, like, the long-term goal. What are you looking for down the road when you think about expansion or growth?
Yeah, so my goal with One Life to Love is we've created this model of support for underprivileged children. And I want to take this model and I want to show it to the government of India and governments of other countries and say, like, hey, this works. You should try this, like, and maybe, or fund us. We'll try it in your country. So this model, it's a proven success. You give children a support system, they will flourish and they will become all that they can be. So that is the long-term goal. In order to get to that point, we first need to raise the capital funding to build a permanent facility. So right now we run out of a rented facility. Everything is run out of rented facilities. We don't own anything because, again, going back to the fact that we don't invest, we whatever is given, we truly believe that whoever is donating, that donor has a heart that I want to change a child's life. So we
Mm.
want those funds to go directly to who is it's intended for, that child. So we would never, say like, let's keep some funds aside for this building project, unless we had a grant, which we're seeking now, a grant to build a long-term facility, a permanent facility for our whole entire project, which is our orphanage for boys with special needs. We need a aftercare facility that's for the boys who age out of that orphanage. They need it's like an old age home. And then we want to do the same with girls, a girls' home and a girls' aftercare facility. And then also our school for migrant children and our library and education center for girls. So
Mm.
that's our goal. We need a $200,000 push to get that facility.
And I'm curious, how do you get Americans? So it's going to be mostly Americans that are watching this or people based in the US. How do you get people that are listening and watching to this conversation thinking about getting involved in something globally when we have so many challenges here at home?
Yes, it's so hard to think outside of our own, even our own lives, our own day-to-day
Mhm.
struggle. We all have the same struggles on different levels. Um, I get that question a lot, that why India? Why not here? And,
Mhm.
yeah, why not here? Why not in America? Why not where you are? Why not the issue that you're facing or that you see as a pressing need? I feel like anyone who really is impressed on their heart with my story and this children's story and the story of India, that they should look into it more, see how you can help, see how you can get connected with us and give. But I am a strong supporter of anyone who wants to serve and give and make a difference in this world. That is the best thing that we can do as human beings, is to
Mm.
give without any expectation of return. Give to make a difference in someone else's life. So I would encourage anyone who has everyone should give in some capacity, because we all have something to give. Even my children, they give me so much. Uh, I get the most, I feel, because I walk into my children's home, I get their smiles, their hugs, their love, their appreciation, the funny things they do. I get all of that. They give so much. So whether you're Jay, who is paralyzed head to toe, or a CEO making good money, everyone has something to give.
Mm. And I think the other thing that really struck me about you and your mission is, yes, this is a global, but this we are all interrelated.
Yes,
That story you were talking about, the young girl that's now going to be a doctor, she's gonna save lives, and you don't know where in the world she's going to live and operate, and I think we
exactly.
have to think of this in terms of this is a global thing that we can all play a part in, and good attracts good,
Exactly.
and I think that is so spot on what you were sharing. My last question is, when you think about anybody listening, watching here at Warriors at Work, what do you want them to remember most about you and One Life to Love?
That's a big one. um, so I would want people to remember that I'm just an ordinary girl from Brick, New Jersey, a very humble family. There's nothing special about me. I know you started by saying, you're very special, but I don't feel that there's anything special about me. I think that I was given a choice. I was given an opportunity to make a hard choice. And I
Mm.
made that hard choice, and it has blessed me in my life. And it continues to bless me. And I know it will forever bless me. So I want people to remember that we are all faced with opportunities to make choices that might seem difficult, and we should take them. And for One Life to Love, I want One Life to Love to be an example of what a nonprofit should be. We should be nonprofit. We should be taking, like, I consider myself a bridge between someone who's able to give financially and someone who has a need for financial help. So I'm the bridge. I get to connect people across the globe. And I want them to remember that nonprofits, we should be the bridge. We should be the bridge between those that have and those that have not.
Mm.
And we should connect them. And that is our role to play. And of course, like, sustainability should come, and we should be supporting nonprofits to become self-sustaining. That is our goal, to become self-sustaining. We don't, we want to see our impact grow, and we want to see, millions of children helped the way that our current beneficiaries are being helped by us. But of course, we expect that to come only if we're self-sustaining. So I'd love people to see One Life to Love as an example of what a nonprofit should aim to be.
Oh, what a beautiful way to end this conversation. I'm so grateful for you. We are so lucky that there's someone like you doing the work that you are with your team of volunteers, these incredible people that are also dedicating their lives, and the incredible impact that you're having on the lives of so many other people. It's such a privilege to have you here and sharing all of this.
Thank you so much, Jeannie. It's such a blessing to sit and talk to you. And I thank you so much for asking these questions and, taking the interest and having the heart for it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Warriors at Work show. If you are interested in learning more about what we do at the Warriors at Work show and platform, be sure to go over to my website, Jeannie Coomber, and subscribe to my monthly Warrior Playbook newsletter. I share everything that I'm up to month by month, as well as some lessons and insights that I've learned. I'm also interested in hearing any feedback you have about this conversation or future topics. So reach out to me directly on jc@jeanniecoomber.com or on LinkedIn. Be sure to tell your friends and your colleagues about this Warriors at Work conversation. Subscribe, review, and rate us. It's the best way to get this message out into the world. Be well.